This was a bittersweet read. Now, don't get me wrong. As we've been going through these, I've really been enjoying the John Byrne run on Fantastic Four. But this one really just kind of, and I'm not saying this like in a negative light, so don't get me wrong, but it was one of those ones when you close it, you're just like, whew, that kind of hit me in the feels, and I don't know how to feel about it. So this is Mission for a Dead Man. The print date on this was August, I believe, 1981. The name over the grate reads Deedon State Correctional Facility, a misnomer dating to an earlier time. It has been compared to Alcatraz, to Sing Sing, to 100 other hellholes that men, by the act of their lives, have committed themselves. There are few living who have heard of Deedon. This is not surprising. Legends rarely grow around places such as these. Legends grow only when there are men to tell them. And the brand of correction practiced at Deedon has that irrevocable finality that prevents such storytelling. In 57 years, no one has ever escaped the prison, sometimes nicknamed Dead End. No inmate leaves the walls of Deedon alive. Case in point, one George David Munson, inmate of the last cell on death row, awaiting his rendezvous with eternity. His crime, the deliberate killing of a human being in furtherance of theft. Come along now, Davy. It's time to go. Yeah, I know, Father. Oh, how I know it. And just look at this you can very much see how Byrne was inspired by Chris Claremont, where it seems wordy when you open it, but it's setting a stage. It's setting a vibe. Instead of saying, oh, this is just a nasty place where people who don't like rainbows and unicorns go to say goodbye-bye. It's serious, dramatic stuff. The type of writing that finally took the comics from the older Bronze and Silver Age, where people would call them the funny pages, to actual work of arts and part of our literary mythos. And in terms of the visual storytelling, just the dreaded use of colors to show how miserable of a place this is. And then that downward, very Frank Miller-inspired prison cell where we see the silhouette of the bars, given that very ominous feeling of what's about to be foretold. And you know what really hurts, Father? All them rotten things I've done in my life, all the men I've killed, all the stuff that I maybe really deserve to die for, and I end up getting my chain pulled for something I didn't even do. So he admits that he is a murderer and a thief and all that stuff. But he's saying just the irony is that he's getting plugged for something that he didn't even do this time. So it's provocative. You're just like, this guy does deserve it for everything that he's done. But nonetheless, this is just kind of one of those false things. So moving on, he asks the priest, he goes, you ain't Pat O'Brien, and I ain't Jimmy Cagney. In a minute, they'll walk me down that hall, and I'll die, Father. There ain't no reprieve once you get to Dead End. But do me one favor, will you, Father? I almost won't mind dying if you'll promise to deliver that letter for me. I will. I do what I can, my son. And then it begins. The electrodes that clamp in place. The switch is thrown like a cliche from 1,000 bad big house epics. The lights dim. The man in the wooden chair stiffens. His face twists in hideous rictus. Abruptly, it's over. And for his crimes, real or imagined, David Munson has paid the supreme penalty. Only then does the priest glance at the address on Munson's last letter. And we see that it's the Human Torch at the Baxter Building. And so the father's not really sure what to make of it because he's going to visit the Fantastic Four. I'm a trifle surprised to find I can get up to their headquarters by so prosaic a means as a common elevator. The call button is lower than on the other level elevators, and it doesn't light when I press on it. That's odd. It doesn't seem to be working. Surely the Fantastic Four would maintain their equipment better than something I can help you with, Father? Ugh. Oh, sorry, I startled you. I'm afraid I'd quite forgotten I was still invisible. There, is that better? Susan Richards, the invisible girl. I have a letter for your brother, but your elevator seems to be out of order. And so we get a little bit of the technology where Sue says, oh, you got to use the RF thing on her belt, which lets them up. And it's very much a welcomed levity to the intensity of the first couple of pages of this book. And what I like is how, we get a little bit of tech geekness in here. So the father's saying, aren't you guys afraid that we're going to have weapons on us? And she goes, oh, don't worry, we're being scanned right now, which we get to see Reed working. And that's pretty much to the degree of what we see for Reed in this story. But it's just a nice little way to set up everybody in this world. And I love how he's just twisting and working just very much like, I think that's what, going back through these, what I really thoroughly enjoy about what John Byrne's doing is it does feel like something you would read from Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. You feel that spirit. You don't feel Reed like he's being an asshole or Susan being wooed by the Submariner. And Johnny, of course, being the jerk, Ben being the grumpy pants that he is. And just as they walk in, suddenly, oh my sweet Johnny, what on earth are you doing? Thing, cut it out. I was only fooling. And John Byrne really, from what I've read, kind of really leaned back into Grimm being bitter about his condition. No use. He's in no mood to listen to reason. And he's throwing that hunk of machinery right at the windows. Got to melt it before it could smash through and fall to the street. Okay, you miserable little twerp. I've put up with your garbage long enough. Thing, stop. What's wrong with you? It was only a joke. Ben, what is it? What did Johnny do to enrage you so? Do? He pasted a picture of Christopher Reeve over my bathroom mirror with a note about what super guys are supposed to look like. It ain't bad enough I gotta look at my own mug every morning. Hotshot here's gotta make big funny ha-has about it. And so it takes the Fantastic Four to take down the strongest member of the team. Thing, in the name of heaven, what are you doing? Keep out of this, rubber man. It's between me and this overgrown juvenile delinquent. And so just in these few couple of action-packed panels, beautifully drawn, by the way, very detailed, instead of, as I kind of pointed out with the X-Men 97 comic, where there's those very dull, generic stock art, you see the Make My Marvel way in these pages, the anatomy, the twisting, the turning, the details in the water, the colors, everything that would make you want to run to the comic shop and buy these books, because both literary and artistically, absolutely phenomenal. So finally, the father is able to deliver the message to Johnny through the cacophony of what just happened. It says, Storm, by the time you get this, I'll be dead. Don't cry no tears for me. I've been a louse all my life, and now I'm paying my dues. But I want you should do me a favor. My old ma never knowed what a crumb I'd been. Not until I got framed for this killing. What I didn't even do. So if you don't hold no grudge from high school, see if you can clear my name. But not for me. For my mom. And so Johnny kind of gets whacked with a really heavy bit of news. And he goes, Johnny's mind flashes back over the years. It was my junior year at Grillianville High, just before I became the Torch. For a reason I never learned, I'd get on the wrong side of a couple of the local thugs. Every day it became a question of how far I'd get from school before they struck. Johnny, what's the matter, pretty boy? Hey, Greg, you see that clown kick my foot? He's going to go and get himself injured like that. You don't watch out, huh, Georgie? It was Georgie back then, not David George. But that's the only redhead that I know from high school. Who'd have thunk I might hold a grudge? And now he's dead, Father. Just over 2 weeks ago, on May the 20th. What do you think you'll do? Well, I always was such a sucker for a sob story, Father. Guess I'll have a nose around and see what I can turn up. And from there, it turns into a murder mystery. Johnny, actually, we start to see him kind of grow. Like, we see the asshole that he is, but we can kind of see how he's starting to grow a little bit from the jerk that we just saw a moment ago. He takes off on his own, goes to local law enforcement places, proves who he is, actually sits down and studies. Like, left on his own, at last Johnny begins to read the pieced together details of a winter night 2 years ago. And this is what really caught my attention, because when I was first reading it, I was like, okay, whatever. But it was here where you start to see Byrne kind of start to switch up the art styles to show the past, where we get this very Sin City, Frank Miller noir style, where he's trying to put together what happened in this liquor store. Boy, no gloves, fingerprints all over the murder weapon, and he couldn't have had any more eyewitnesses to his escape if he had the whole thing catered. Yep, it's just dumb enough to have been our old pal Georgie. But there's one detail that's troubling me. And so as the torch seeks out the officer who investigated the crime, it's the silencer that bothers me, Sergeant Munson. Was dumb enough to pull the crime, but a silencer, it's just too subtle. Yeah, I know what you mean. It bugged me at the time. But your buddy Munson was a transient. And as near as we can figure, he'd only been in town a few days. No one knew him well enough to say if he was smart enough or not to use a silencer. And so you actually get a little bit of a clue. And so Johnny actually comes to the liquor store and starts snooping around these back rooms. And the guy kicks him out and says, "Get out of here before I call the police." But Johnny sticks around, and we come to later that night. I can't risk waiting any longer. If the Human Torch is involved, the rest of the Fantastic Four may be right behind him. So he goes to make a call to his boss. "Sorry to crash in on you, but I'd have this real important call to make. Hey, I'm flattered you remembered me. Now maybe you'd like to get a few things off your chest." And for those of you that are maybe a little bit younger in the generations, back then there was no cell phone. They used to have what's called phone booths, and you actually had to go and pop a couple of quarters in depending on how far you wanted to call. So just keeping that in mind. So the liquor store guy runs. However, Johnny's finally able to get him. And he says, "And just to make sure you don't stray too far either, a flaming cage." And what I like here is Johnny actually puts the fear of God in some of these guys. So this liquor store guy leads him to some of his other, ruffians, I guess, for a lack of a better term. He goes, "Hey, don't run away. I ain't finished yet. Since you're the only one who's still conscious, you'll have to tell me what I need to know." "No way, the boss would kill me." "Kill you? Sonny boy, being dead would be a picnic compared to some of the things I can do to you. Now fess up before I roast you so bad they'll have to put you back together with Hamburger Helper." You bluffing Torch. You're a superhero. Superheroes can't hurt people. It ain't allowed." "You're serious? What, you think we have to sign a contract or something? Party of the first part agresses only to use powers in furtherance of truth, justice, and etc. Tell me something, wise guy. If I cook you, who's going to catch me? Better still, who's going to even know? I still think you're bluffing. Okay, let's find out about that, shall we? Beards and long hair are kind of a passe, you know. How's about I give you a nice close shave? Don't move around too much now if I slip. All right, I'll talk." And we actually start to see Johnny begin to torch this guy. He goes, "That's just about enough, pal. Now you be a good boy and wait for the police. Don't force me to come looking for you." Good thing he was broke. I was bluffing, and I hate to think how far I might have gone to force what I've got to prove. And so he actually conflicted with himself. He's saying that, I actually had to prove that I wasn't going to do it, which then leads into the crescendo of the story. We come to find out that everything that happened with Munson in this little racketeering thing leads all the way to the top. So spoilers at this point, if you guys do not want this book to be spoiled for you, go check out your local comic shop and get this or the collected trade. We find out that the leader is Hammerhead. And at this point, he is apparently pronounced dead. He goes, "You're supposed to be dead. You died in a helicopter crash in the Hudson River," which it says CMators in Spider-Man 157 through 159. "Hammerhead don't die that easy, punk, as if you're going to find out when you mess with me." And we just go into a full-on battle between the Human Torch and this new and enhanced Hammerhead. And I love this outfit. It would have been kind of cool, because I know that Marvel Legends just released a Hammerhead version, but it'd be kind of cool to get this exoskeleton version. "Okay, so you found out. Big deal. I had the Thinker build this suit for me so that I could punch you out, you super clowns, out." And now the book comes to kind of a bittersweet end as Johnny doesn't know what happened to Hammerhead. I'm kind of skimming over this because I don't want to spoil that. However, as we come to the end, again, spoiler alerts, Johnny is able to clear George's name for that particular instance, of course. And he says here, "An unseasonal autumn-like chill touches the unhallowed ground of the cemetery behind Deaton State Correctional Facility. Amidst the creak old dead trees and the rusted dry leaves, two people speak in whispers. I found what I was looking for, Miss Munson. Your boy Georgie was a fall guy. That's all. The old geezer who ran the liquor store was laundering money for the Magia, which is some sort of mob name. I'm not too familiar on this, so let me know down in the comments. He says, found out he was also skimming a few $1,000 a year for himself, so Hammerhead sent one of his goons, a guy named Morris Vance, to off the old guy. He goes, that's okay, Mr. Torch. He was a bad boy, my Georgie. From all them other things he'd done, he got what he deserved. What? You mean you knew all along? You knew he was a crook and a murderer? Listen, I may just be some ignorant old immigrant lady, but stupid I ain't. I always knew he'd come to no good. My mother always knows. Ms. Munson, I'm sorry. I wanted you to believe that Georgie wasn't I went digging through old records so you could think that he was. That's because you're the kind of boy from who any mother could get proud, because you're a hero. And that's what I mean, guys. We get this action, we get this noir murder mystery, we get the action-packed superhero fight with Hammerhead, and then as we close, as we see kind of Johnny starting to grow, which would have been nice, in my personal opinion, it would have been nice to see him and Grim reconcile, but c'est la vie. But seeing how Johnny sticks his neck out for a murder that he'd not seen in years to try to do the right thing shows that he is growing from the hot-headed teenager that he was. And then for the mother to say, a mother knows when his son is rotten. And because you did what you could, Mr. Storm, because you're a good boy that any mother could be proud of. Excellent storytelling, guys. And another reason that I wanted to showcase this book is because this did something that a lot of modern comics cannot or just don't want to do anymore, and that is a one-off story where it's all self-contained, and when it finishes, it doesn't feel like you need to go get the next 1,600 tie-ins, as where I feel like a lot of modern comics now, when I finish a tell, it'll say, oh, now make sure to pick up this book for the next 16-issue crossover with the 24 tie-ins and 152 variant covers. This was a great self-contained story with beautiful artwork and one that you definitely want to treasure in your collection. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you like to get your action figures and comics and grab this issue. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little flame on bell, next subscribe, that was when you get to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you on hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.